What's happening, Ryan? How you doing, man?
Hey, Britt, thanks for having me on, dude.
Thank you for coming on. Everybody's going to be real excited. You know what I just realized? I was looking, you grew up in Pleasanton?
P-Town, Pleasanton, California. Yes.
Wow, I'm in Alamo up here. How long did you live up there for?
Pretty much until I drove my Ford Courier down to Los Angeles for in search of a better life, I guess. I didn't have a bad life, to be honest with you. I had a very nice suburban middle class. Pleasanton at that point
Yeah.
was the ultimate in suburban living. If you ever watched that movie, I think it was what was his name? Uh, the other Dylan, Matt Dillon.
Yeah.
Would that have been in? Yeah, there's a movie from the '70s called Over the
Oh,
Edge.
dude, I was just talking about it. I
Are you
mean,
serious?
it
Yeah.
ruined my fucking life, dude. I
Well,
was just talking. Yeah. Okay.
it
We'll
was
go
my
on.
life. Yeah,
Yeah.
that movie was my life. Growing up in those sort of house track housing developments where everything was sort of under construction because it was supposed to be the new middle class, and that's the way Pleasanton was back in that town because it was a slow transition from basically a cow town, cowboy sort of town, old school, to like this suburban, suburbia. And now you can't even look for a place there
Yeah.
without having to drop $1 or $2 million for the same house I grew up in for
Right.
32,000. I think I asked my parents one time, how much did you pay for this house? And then they were like, I think when we bought it, it was $30,000. I think it was a lot of money back then. It's like, holy crap.
Wow. Dude, what do you think was so influential about Over the Edge? That I remember the community was called New Granada. That was the
All right. I love it.
yeah, and that really when those kids take that first shot and Cheap Trick, come on,
Well, what was so influential, I think, was the soundtrack. I mean,
yeah,
you
yeah.
remember Van Halen was on it.
Jamie's crying, the cars. It was a template, right?
It definitely was, and very underrated as far as those types of movies go. Obviously, I tell whenever I want to explain to my wife, she's a couple years older. She's not that much younger than me, but I'm a couple years older than her. But I try to explain. She's from South Africa. She's from Cape Town.
Okay.
So I try to explain a little bit of my upbringing in California, and I always refer to a couple movies. One is the Fast Times at Ridgemont High. I think that's
100%. Come on.
good
Yeah,
example. Another one is Over the Edge, like you said, that we were talking about. And the other one is that one that's from Dallas. Oh my God, now it's going to escape me. But another great soundtrack that just recently is in the sense of it just recently came out. I think it came out sometime in the aughts. It came out somewhere in 2000, or maybe it was earlier that in the 90s. But
Slacker, maybe?
No. It was the I know there's people listening right now going, dude, it's that movie.
Not Reality Bites. Not...
No, Matthew McConaughey's first film.
Oh, Dazed and Confused.
Dazed and Confused.
Yes,
That was another sort of upbringing for me. And there you go.
I so get it, man.
Older, they keep staying the same.
Oh, I totally get it, man. That there's just something in those movies that was a thread of our life that was really, really cool, man. And those soundtracks just really hit me hard. And Over the Edge,
the soundtrack of our lives back in then. And I mean, pretty much the soundtrack of my life was the first couple Cheap Trick records. I remember coming home from school and putting on my big Pioneer headphones.
Yeah.
Not that dissimilar than what I have on right now, but maybe a little bit puffier. And would put on either Budokan or put on Heaven Tonight. And those were, two of the albums that kind of influenced all my homework back in those days. Plus, I had the same years that Queen News of the World came out, Kiss Love Gun, Sex Pistols, Nevermind the Bollocks came out, the Clash's first album. These are all like 77, 78, late 70s and stuff. So
yeah,
I felt growing up in Pleasanton and just growing up where I did during the time that I did it was a great spectrum of hard rock, punk rock, and sort of even pop rock, if you will, because, I'm not ashamed to admit that I listened to just as much, Bee Gees as I did Aerosmith.
Right. I saw somewhere you listed Neil Giraldo from Pat Benatar, and I love that growing up. And I thought that's heavier than some, you know, some bands that looked metal. I mean, it was crushing
One
to
of my
music.
favorite guitar players that plays the right part for the right song. All his guitar parts enhance a song. And if I could, you know, there's a handful of guys that do that consistently. And I feel that Neil Giraldo is at the top of the game when he comes to just great support parts, that really hooky parts. Elliot Easton from the Cars is another one of those guys. Steve Stevens from the Billy Idol band is another one. So these, and obviously, you know, Rick Nielsen from Cheap Trick.
Right. And Steve Stevens, I was talking with Jeff the other day. It's interesting. There's a lot of guitar players that are there when you start playing guitar. Most of the guitar players you're talking about were there when you started. Right. Who came along? Did Steve and blew your head off? Who while you were playing guitar came along and just ripped your head off?
Well, when I was 16 years old, I was playing a place in Danville. So you're from Alamo. You know Danville, California, a little club called The Stage in Danville. And I was in a band called Fair Warning, and it's no mistake it was called Fair Warning because I was blown away by Eddie Van Halen. But we used to open up for a band called The Squares. And it was a power trio, and that was kind of a cross between the Police first record, when the Police were a bit more punk rock, and Van Halen.
Wasn't Satriani in that band?
That was Joe Satriani.
Whoa,
yeah, that was Joe Satriani in the Squares. And I, you know, like I said, I used to open up for him and study his rig, and you know, he'd just marvel at his playing. Even though I could never play like that, at least I got the tips of, you know, okay, he's got 2 412 cabinets, 2 Marshalls. Okay, that's important. Okay, those are both going into like this stereo CE1 chorus. Okay, and he's got an Echoplex. Okay, so echo chorus. So I was pretty much getting all the tricks, the technical tricks from him. Then it took years later until I was able to, you know, build up the chops to like even, you know, feel I can sit in the same room. But you know what? That's the one good thing about being an old schooler like I am now and being in the trenches as long as I have. I feel like I can sit in the room with anybody now, and you know, not feel awkward about it. I know,
right? Be in the conversation, as they say. You're in the conversation.
I feel like I belong in the room. You know, it's like that's why I have my own podcast and I'm able to bring on these guys and not feel, you know, obviously I'm inspired by them constantly, but I'm not, you know, to the point where I'm intimidated, because you know what they do great, and I feel I bring something to the table that obviously, you know, my boss Alice Cooper has loved. You know, he's approved of it for many enough years. I've been in the band for over 20 years off and on, so I feel like, you know, I just enjoy getting these stories and getting to hang with a bunch of these inspirational players, because, you know, you always learn something new from someone that you sit down with and have a talk with. You really do.
What's of course, and what I love too is you give back. You teach. You have so many lessons online, and this 12-step program, which I'm going to put a link to in the chat, because so many people want to learn guitar. I wanna, and it's that thing where it's like losing weight. If you lose those 3 pounds, just get past that point, you're gonna lose more weight. You're gonna be into it.
That's the whole reason why I sort of developed a System 12. You know? And I love it because it's a 12-step.
Yeah.
It does revolve around the number 12. But you know, if you want to get sober, don't take my guitar course. But if you want to learn guitar, it's definitely worth it.
Right.
Because the thing is, I think I teach you in a way where you're inspired after that first hump, because that's what you said, you know, about losing weight or whatever it is. It's usually in the beginning that you get uninspired, and it's hard.
100%.
So the way that most people are taught guitar, it's a very uphill battle from the beginning. And what I try to do is I try to make things, I take every single trick, every single life hack, every single guitar hack that I've ever learned from different players and just different situations over the years, and I apply it to this system. So by the first few lessons, you already have songs under your belt and you already have knowledge of the fretboard, because it's really not that hard if someone explains to you a little bit more, like with mathematics and ABCs. And that's all
100%.
basically you need to, I mean, like if I could tell you in 2 sentences, did you know, 'cause do you play guitar?
I play bass. I play bass.
You play bass. Okay. So you're a
Well, I
musician.
mean, I play guitar. Yeah, but play.
But this is something that so many people, they kind of have to think about it instead of it just becoming their straight answers. Do you know how many whole notes there are in music? I'm not talking sharps and flats, just how many, A, B, C, how many notes there are in music?
6, right? Wait,
7. Close. There's 7.
7. Okay.
But then if you count the sharps and flats, and
Yeah.
that's assuming that you sort of take into account that a C sharp and a D flat are the same note, which they are. You learn all that in System 12. But if you take every note in music, how many are there? You're counting.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
And here's the thing. If you just said right off the bat, 12, you'd be correct. There's only 12 notes in music. And that's where I try to simplify things. If you can
That's
break
great,
things down to being just, there's only 12 notes total with all the sharps and all the flats and all that kind of stuff, only 12 choices you can have, then you can break it down from there. And I think that's what the System 12 does in a very well thought out and easy to digest sort of way.
That's cool. I mean, because I remember as a kid, they threw the circle of fifths at me too soon. They threw so that just dude, overwhelmed. And
I'm with you, dude. There's too much. I mean, the worst thing I think you could tell a beginning guitar player to do, the worst thing you could teach a beginning guitar player to do is their first position chords when they first learn, because you're forcing someone to move their hand all over an instrument in weird positions that they've never even played before. What I do is I concentrate on 2 strings and I concentrate on 1 finger and I concentrate on you knowing, learning those notes that go up and down the neck in a very, very pragmatic way, in a very simplistic way. And so by the end, like I said, of the first lesson, you're playing a song.
Wow. I mean, because I remember when I actually taught in El Cerrito. I was teaching inner city kids music. The guy that doesn't know the number of notes was teaching them. But
well, now you do. Now you know that. Now you know it's instead of 711, it's 712.
But I'd have to, I had to keep their interest, and I had to teach them church songs. And I'd realize we had to divide half of the lesson into something interesting, singing some songs they knew, then half into. And then as I taught them more, I realized I almost quit music because I would take my bass home in 80, 81 or whatever. And the guy would say, play it on the top string. Now, as a beginner, the top string you think is as close to the roof as possible. It's as close to the roof. And also tuning. Nobody told me how to tune. I'd ruin my instrument. As soon as it went out of tune from the lesson, I was screwed, man.
Wow. There's a lot of those sort of hacks and shortcuts that we use and we apply in our System 12, because we do have a tuning system. We have a tuning page that you can tune to any key that you want, but obviously we keep it really simple. We tune to E standard tuning, which is pretty much all the albums that you listen to. But then again, there's a lot of other albums that you tune down half a step.
That's the Kiss.
You have to be aware of that too.
Yeah.
And it's not so hard once you grasp it, because once you start hearing what an E note sounds like, okay, it's not that much far of a stretch to hear what it might sound like if it was down a half step, So
wow.
Like I said, it's definitely worth a try. The easiest way to go check all that stuff out is ryanroxie.com/system12 or just ryanroxie.com.
Yeah. And now, can a beginner, someone that's never played guitar, can they start? Would this be okay for them?
I feel this course, the System 12 course that we just put out, is perfect for anyone that's beginning their guitar journey or anyone that is already on their guitar journey and they consider themselves maybe an intermediate player, but they feel that they might have missed out on a little bit of the fundamentals of like how they understand tab, they understand notes, but not really.
Right.
So, because what our technology does, the tech that we use this great tech by a company called SoundSlice. We put out a video, like we're, like a old school mentor video, like I'm teaching you, but along with that video, there is a scrolling text in a scrolling bar that goes with tablature and notation and, text notes. So you can actually, you don't have to look two different places. It's all in one sort of easy to digest sort of visual.
Man, that's
It's
awesome. Cool. That's cool. Well, we'll have to put the link down there, and I know a lot of people.
I'm excited about it. You know, I just want as many people to start playing guitar as possible because
it's a joy, man. When you, even if you just sit around a campfire, you light up the campfire because you can play Free Falling. It changes the atmosphere when you know how to play.
Absolutely. Free Falling is the new, I guess the new Bob Dylan song.
Yeah.
You want to know what the new Smoke on the Water is?
Oh, give it to me. Give it to me.
Smoke on the Water. No, but honestly, my course does not teach Smoke on the Water, although I will teach it to you privately. But I feel for the sort of newer generations, the newest Smoke on the Water now that everybody learned. By the way, folks, Smoke on the Water is a band called Deep Purple, amazing band. That's probably the first song a lot of us learned when we, old schoolers. But then again, my son, who's young, his first song that he learned on piano, his teacher taught him Smoke on the Water. But I honestly feel the new Smoke on the Water is Seven Nation Army. Because everyone knows that down, down. And guess what? In the System 12, Seven Nation Army is taught in lesson 7.
Wow. What an amazing riff song. It's pretty hard to write an amazing song like that around a riff and come up with such a strong riff. What do you think about that?
I think it's incredible because it's just so powerful. That's the power of a single note.
Yeah.
If you can write a single note riff, whether it's down, 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 or it's any sort of riff that you can sing along, especially if it's a solo, then you've created something great. Because let's be honest, I think Slash has come up with some of the most sing-songy solos of our generation, of my sort of, where I consider him, as a peer, because we all played in the same scene.
Played
together.
in his band.
I forget played in his band. Yeah. We, when you know every single note by singing Sweet Child of Mine, that's a good solo.
Yeah. It's my buddy was saying, to have a hit song with an aggressive solo is just insane. That's such a, those guys were having hits with aggressive solos.
Brian May and Bohemian Rhapsody, and then when it gets to that heavy part, and it's just so amazing. Man, yeah, he's another one of my top guys is Brian May, and but like you said, those sort of guys that fly a little bit below the radar that write these amazing parts. Neil Giraldo.
Billy Squire with Fast Times at Ridgemont High. He has that forgotten song on there that I just love. The Best Times of Our Lives. It's huge. The riff's huge.
Billy Squire gets, I just mentioned him. I had Satchel from Steel Panther and on just a couple days ago. And we were talking about Billy Squire. And unfortunately, I did disparage it because of that damn video, right? He's made one sort of video that's tainted all this amazing, what was the name of the huge album that had the Stroke and it
Don't
had
Say No.
Lonely as the Night? Don't Say No. What a friggin' awesome album, dude.
And what
a great album cover too.
Oh, dude, I DJ and I can't tell you how many times I'm out DJing some rap thing and it's a Billy Squire sample. Jay-Z, everybody, that drummer was just incredible. You know what I mean?
No doubt.
It's just incredible. So I've seen you, dude. One thing that blows me away, I've seen you at the Coconut Teaser and I've seen you at the Hollywood Bowl packed. And you give it up. You gave it up at both. There's no drop off. Huh? There's no drop off, man. How does that feel to play the Hollywood Bowl packed with Alice Cooper? You're looking over, the guy you grew up in. From the teaser to that, and I loved Electric Angels, but what is that? Was that a trip for you?
That was that was a bucket list one. Hollywood Bowl was definitely a bucket list one. And so much so that we were, I think, lucky enough to play it twice. We really did. Some of those gigs you don't get that lucky to play it more than once, but the Hollywood Bowl we did it twice, once with Motley Crue and then once with Alice headlining it, and it was or actually was it? Did we do it twice, or I think we only did it once? Did you see it with the Motley show?
Yes.
Okay, that might have been it, folks. I might be confusing it with Get Him to the Greek.
But you were killing it and giving it up. One thing that hit me is I moved in '88 because of Guns N' Roses from New Jersey to LA. And
Nice.
and so you guys had seen them, you'd seen that process of someone doing something huge. It's like, this is the guy from that scene that's really done it and really owning the Hollywood Bowl stage from when I moved out there. You know what I mean?
Wow.
To see
Well,
the
you know
journey from the
what?
teaser to the bowl.
The journey from the teaser to the bowl. And you know what? I had just as good a time I probably at the teaser because that was just such a potpourri of decadence back in those days.
Oh yeah.
And but it was at the end of the day, I feel like the only difference was between playing well besides the crowd size was that I had to time myself out a little bit better because the teaser you'd end up going on a little bit later, so you'd have to time your time your buzz, time your drinking, so
Yeah.
you wanted to be still on top of your game, but you still wanted to take the edge off a little bit and enjoy the show. So perhaps the timing was just a little bit different as far as preparation for the show, but once you hit the stage, it is all about the performance and probably making the most you can out of that opportunity.
Yeah.
So
You
I appreciate you doing that, coming out to both of those ones and seeing that.
I loved it. I loved that's Porto Mag. I've loved everything you've done. Maybe it's that pop sensibility that just keeps me coming back to everything you do. Because I love, like you say, that Neil Giraldo, even Aldo Nova, those guys that have this vein of something that's just
I feel it's part, I still have a foot and a toe into the original sort of heavy pop band, which I think goes back to the Beatles.
yeah.
It goes back to the Beatles and the Stones. And I know everybody rolls their eyes and goes, that's my grandparents' music. But no, you know what? The way you experience it, and I remember to this day playing, whether it was air guitar or it was drums on Tupperware, or it was actually spoons, wooden spoons on Tupperware. Me and my next door neighbor, Adam Wakeling, we would listen to the White Album in its entirety and sort of, air guitar and Tupperware drums, the entire album. And that sort of influence, I think really that and AM radio when I was growing up, because AM radio, there was a station up in the Bay Area at that time called KFRC. And
Yes, everybody still
have
talks
it,
about. I don't. Yeah, yeah.
probably it's probably talk radio at this point, but there was a DJ called Dr. Don Rose. He was like the king of it. I think he's actually in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, but he would play literally he'd play the Bee Gees next to Cheap Trick, next to the Ohio Players, next to Aerosmith, and then with a little bit of ABBA thrown in. So I was constantly being sort of presented like different types of cool music, really good music. So if you take a look at the bands that come from the Bay Area, especially back in the years that I was growing up in there, Greg Kinn Band, for instance,
breakups,
early Huey Lewis songs. Of course, there was a band. Eric Martin was in a band called 415.
Davey Bain told me that band was insane, just so good.
Dude,
they were like the older kids that just slayed, right?
He looked like 20 when he was, he looked like 20 years old when he was 20. He looked like 20 years old when he was 40. He looked like 20 years old when he's 8. I bet he still looks 20.
Night Ranger. Night
Ranger was there. Exactly. There was another band called Pablo Cruz, which I was way into as well.
Pablo
Cruz. There was a lot of cool punk rock bands. Pearl Harbor and the Explosions were from there. Obviously, we talked a little bit about the Squares with Joe Satriani.
Well, can I ask you, what was it like seeing Satriani? Because I put him up there with Hendrix. Like, dude, what was that like seeing him in Danville? You blew my mind. Just
dude, it was.
Did you know?
It was a clinic, dude. It was him and just riffing away with that tone. Like it was years later that I kind of understood that, no matter how much you want to believe that if I buy this effect or if I buy this amp, I'm going to sound like that. No, it was his hands. He would have sounded like that through anything. The true tone is your heart and your head telling your hand what to do, right?
100%.
And it comes through the fingers. But obviously those effects can sort of emulate, they can get you halfway there.
I fully agree
So,
with you, man. I people
but
ask me about bass. It's that foot of bass where I get my tone, where I put my hand, Geezer Butler style, where I put it. But
I like it.
yeah,
That's a very good analogy of it.
no, but that's amazing that you saw him in a clip. That out of set. I mean, dude, he changed music. Everybody he taught, all the set from Steve Vai to Kirk Hammett, everybody, you know.
That's true. There was one band that, out of all those bands that I just mentioned, there's one band that was my ultimate favorite out of the Bay Area, called Headon. And
Everybody talks about Headon from the Stone.
Okay.
I have some recordings of them actually. Yeah.
Yeah.
Howard Tiemann in that, or it was always Headon and
Howard
Lamont.
Tiemann was in it.
Yeah.
Howard Tiemann was a drummer. Mark Berglund was a singer. And, you know, I don't know how I can name his name. Like, I know that Frankie, I think, was playing guitar, who's gone on to play with Rat.
Sea Hags,
and
right?
he's huh?
Frankie Wilsey from the Sea Hags, or no?
Yes, I believe that was him. I think that was Frankie from the Sea Hags.
Yes.
I know he's gone on to play with Stephen Piercy as well.
Yes, so, that's him. Yeah.
Okay. And then I think DJ was the second bass player. It was a guy named DJ. And then there was another guitar player. Oh my God. I give them so much credit.
I hear that it must have been magical, dude. It's just like hearing about people talk about them. They're a game changer. You know what I mean? It's I didn't see them, but
what's funny, those songs are so in my backbone from again, that place in Danville where my band Fair Warning used to open up for all these bands.
Yeah.
That years later, when I moved down to Los Angeles and I put out an EP, I put out a band called, my first solo project I ever had. I recorded, I think, on a Fostex 8-track sort of machine, but I called this project Bye Bye Kitty. It was my first solo thing.
Okay.
It was after, it was during the time I was in this band called Candy, and Candy had Gilby Clarke in it, and Candy eventually turned into Electric Angels, then turned into playing with Gilby Clarke, which eventually gave me my opportunity with Alice. So one thing led to another, but this project that I did an EP, like, 5 or 6 songs. And one of the songs, honestly, I recorded it years later. I didn't think anything of it. I put out a box set. In fact, hold on. I put out this little box set right here that has all these old demos and everything. It's basically the anthology of what I've put out, 70 songs. And
wow.
One of those songs I had, I put on the Bye Bye Kitty stuff. And when I got that Head-On CD that they just released a few years ago, I listened to one of the songs and I was like, holy shit. I literally almost put note for note the riff.
No, I get it, man. Yeah. When those songs you hear as a kid from the band that just like, that's what rock is. You look at the guy, you see him with his girlfriend after the show. You're like, that's rock. That's what I want to be. That's really cool, man.
I'll tell you the one song that I've been trying to sort of rip off, AKA pay homage, whatever, however you want to call it. The one that I've been trying to rewrite for many, many years, I still haven't been able to do it, is Surrender by Cheap Trick. It's such a well-crafted rock song, just such a well-crafted, it doesn't have to be rock. It's just a well-crafted song. It's got a modulation in it, but it doesn't come across corny. It's fucking so cool.
Where do they place the chorus? And just the joy, like you say, that joy of where it sits, man. I'll let you go in a minute. I remember I wasn't allowed to go to concerts as a young kid, but Cheap Trick would play the amusement park Great Adventure. And I would just go every year. They would play, and when Rick Nielsen would throw out the Kiss record with the picks taped on the edges, it was just like the greatest high. That song has some spirituality, something that just, and it's joy. There's a lot of darkness, but I play that on my show, and there's some sense of joy with that song that just does something and lifts you and says it's going to be all right. Even the message, man, there's so many love songs. Your mom and dad are all right. They
just seem a little weird.
Oh, Mike Damone.
Seem a little bit weird.
Oh my,
Damone.
You're
Wherever
Damone,
you are is
yeah.
the place to be. What about the tunes? It always goes back to that.
Oh my God. Well, Thank you so much, Ryan, for stopping by, man. I
Sure,
really,
man. Hey, man, anytime I come back and just shoot the shit. It sounds like you got a lot going on with your show, and
yeah,
it's a comfortable hang. I like the fact
cool.
that you have all this these cool aesthetics around you. Obviously, I have my aesthetics
Yeah, yeah,
around
yeah.
me.
And
So
what's in the trenches? That's your podcast video cast that people can. I'm going to
yeah,
put the link
I
down
do a
there.
live stream. I do a live stream every Tuesday. As many Tuesdays as I can. We just had our 50th episode. I'm pretty happy about that. And
With
if you go
Satchel,
back
right?
and yeah, we just had Satchel from Steel Panther, and the week before we had Roger Fisher, one of the founding members of Heart. And
Yes.
then a
He
couple
played the
weeks
riff,
earlier,
dude. He played the
dude,
fucking riff. What the
he,
fuck?
yeah, he played Barracuda. I mean, dude,
He
and it
wrote it,
sounded
right?
exactly like it.
Like,
I
whoa.
know,
We're just
I know.
man. Well, we'll definitely do a part 2. But I really thank you for stopping by, man.
You got it, DJ Britt. Have a great one. All right, enjoy
Oh,
it.
over the edge forever.
And go if you wanted to go check out System 12 Guitar Method. Start learning guitar.
Oh, I'm
That's
going
all
to
I can
tell
ask.
everybody.
Here's the takeaway: start learning guitar.
It's going to change lives for real.
Eric
All right,
Singer's
man.
favorite. See you, bud.